Representative Eric Swalwell joins us now. Good morning, Representative.
Good morning, Stephanie.
Oh, my God.
Greetings just off the House floor.
Oh, boy.
I know. This is a very exciting day. It's a very important day. I know you were. Thank you so much for taking time for us today. Representative, for lay people, explain what is happening today and how this affects what's happening going forward regarding impeachment.
We are moving from an investigative phase, which will be concluded soon, where we're conducting depositions of witnesses around the extortion scheme that President Trump was allegedly running with the Ukrainians, to a more public stage. And to have that public phase, we need to formalize the rules that would allow the depositions we've taken to become public, as far as the transcripts, rules to allow the questioning of witnesses by both sides for equal time, and rules to allow due process rights for the president once this reaches the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah. Representative, if you don't mind my saying so, you and Adam Schiff and Speaker Pelosi, I really feel are handling all of this with the seriousness that it requires. And meanwhile, we're watching live as your Republican colleagues are, I don't even know what to call it. It's just drama, isn't it? I mean, our friend Barb McQuaid, the former prosecutor, said, in a court of law, there's no trial till there's an investigation. That occurs behind closed doors. Only after a grand jury votes to indict is there a public trial. We are still in the investigative stage. No mistrial, no taint, no due process violation. All the process stuff that they're screaming about these are the rules the Republicans established, right? John Boehner established, Trey Gowdy abided by during Benghazi. I mean, what's going to happen when they have to fight on the substance?
They're in deep denial, Stephanie, about the underlying act, which I wish concerned them more, that the president extorted $391 million taxpayer dollars over the Ukrainians for help in his political campaign. And so you're seeing this obsession over the rules, but again, it's their own rules that they are protesting. We are using John Boehner's 2015 rules to at least guide the depositions. But once we move into a more public phase where witnesses will be tested in public, I'm sure there will be new protests and new lines of attack. But I hope that they bring a seriousness that they have not yet brought to the proceedings, because what's at stake here is whether or not we believe that a president should be able to abuse their office to have foreign powers engage in our elections.
Well, you said it best on Twitter. You said it's impossible to protect Trump and our Constitution at the same time. Get serious, GOP. Do you have a sense when public, like the televised hearings may begin? What kind of timeline you're on?
We're moving expeditiously with the depositions, and yesterday we had two, and we have one ongoing right now. We're voting on the floor, and then we're going to return to that deposition. And we worked on Saturday. I was here this past Saturday for a deposition. So we feel the pressure to move, fairly but also swiftly, and we hope very soon that the public will start to hear what we have already heard, in these closed depositions. And I just want to say that the reason we're having the depositions closed, and any investigation with integrity would do this, is that you want to protect the information in a close hold fashion before witnesses can hear what other witnesses say and then start to tailor their testimony or manufacture alibis. And then you have the public testimony. That's what occurred with Watergate. That's what occurred with the Clinton impeachment trial. And that's how we're conducting this inquiry.
That's a good point. That's exactly right. Is that they're not, and we see this from everything that's happened so far. Is of course it's driving the White House crazy because they don't know what's happening and they can't have people try to line up their lies. And obviously, this latest bombshell that John Eisenberg, the White House lawyer, moved the transcript of Trump's call to this classified server. I mean, when he was explicitly told the president did something wrong and his impulse was, oh, well, let's hide it. John Dean said White House lawyer Eisenberg moved the transcript. Attorney-client privilege does not shield criminal activity. Eisenberg's client is not Donald Trump. Eisenberg must testify. I assume they're going to say they're not going to. Do you think?
That would be the practice. The president has ordered every witness to not come forward. We have been aided by the brave people who have come forward and defied their lawless orders. But I will just reserve judgment until the day for Eisenberg to testify happens. And I will also say that our focus is on the president's conduct, and so to the extent that anything that staffers do relates to orders from the president that's relevant for us. But I've often told my colleagues, and I think they agree, that we have to focus on what the president did. And if he's ordering others to do things, then yes, we want to know if that goes to a consciousness of guilt. But this is really about what the president said on that call record, and what people did to carry out his wishes. This was not rogue aides acting. This is the president of the United States leveraging our taxpayer dollars to advance his political campaign.
Representative Swalwell, what's your take on Ambassador Bolton? So he's obviously you're going to subpoena. He's basically said I can't do it willingly, but subpoena me. So what is your take on what's happening there?
Well, we've subpoenaed others who have come in, and so if he is sincere about that, then we expect he will be here. But we're not going to chase administration or prior administration officials into the courts any longer. We've seen that is a tactic to delay being held accountable, and so we will just put anyone who is going to follow the president's lawless order to obstruct. We will just take that as they don't have anything that can help the president, and that they are not testifying because they believe that it would hurt the president, and so we will view it that way rather than allowing them to delay the proceedings any further.
Representative, thank you for standing up for the whistleblower. I'm so grateful to have really smart prosecutors like you and Adam Schiff involved in this, because they must think you're stupid. I mean, it's just that this line of questioning was clearly aimed at trying to out the whistleblower, which, and as you said, this is a serious moment for our nation. It's time my Republican colleagues started acting that way. It's irresponsible for anyone to seek the whistleblower's identity, especially if it's for no other reason than to be punitive and to protect the president. It's sort of extraordinary what we're seeing is they're acting as a defense team for the president rather than wanting to be on a search for the truth, right?
Stephanie, I come from, trial courts where I was a prosecutor, and, oftentimes I'd go up against, really hardworking public defenders, and, the role that they play in our court system is, they have to, represent their client in the Constitution and make sure that the people prove their case. But that is the role of a public defender. They don't get to choose their clients or their cases. Here, my Republican colleagues are acting as if they are wedded to the president and that they are his public defender and that they have no choice but to defend him. And that's not the case. That's a big difference between what we're doing and how trial courts work. They could actually be objective and join us in our call to hold the president to account and have a public, fair process. And it's so unfortunate that I think many of them see that they have to defend him at all costs, including outing a whistleblower and putting someone's life and the life of their family at risk.
Yeah. Can I? Well, it's hard to get inside Republicans' minds. I'm sure you try to do it every day. But what's this focus on the whistleblower? I mean, am I wrong in that it's almost irrelevant legally at this point? We've had so many people that have come forward and testified and corroborated. It's not like it's. I think they're trying to make it about one person and one phone call when it's much, much larger than that, isn't it?
It's punitive, and it's only punitive. And, what we have seen is that, and the Inspector General, I think, described it best, that the whistleblower pulled the fire alarm, and everything that happened after, was the first responders showing up. And what did the first responders see when they showed up? They saw smoke and flames and a collapsing building, and the president holding a can of gasoline and matches in his hand. There's no reason at this point to interview the person who pulled the fire alarm if the justification for pulling the fire alarm has been warranted. And in our case, it's been corroborated. And so if interviewing the whistleblower means putting that person's life at risk and violating the anonymity that they're allowed, I don't think that outweighs, the rights that this person had.
Yeah. It's all just distraction at this point, isn't it? And boy, it's in the be careful what you wish for category, isn't it? That they're like, oh, this is all in secret, which, as we've already discussed, is how it's always done. But be careful what you wish for, because now it's going to be public, and it's not going to be good for the president, is it?
Open secret, because there's 48 Republicans in the room.
Yeah. Well, and as you said, they're
allowed to be in there. Then there's the ones who storm in there without authorization.
Well, as you said on Twitter, you said, because they keep saying, oh, there'd be a mistrial, this were a court of law, this and that. You said in a court of law, there'd be repercussions for anyone who deliberately carried their electronics into a skiff, as you and dozens of your House colleagues did last week. And I mean, it's just such a ridiculous stunt in that a whole bunch of them are allowed to be in those hearings, and at least one of them has chosen not to, right?
Many of them have chosen not to, and the majority of the members who are allowed to be there on their side are not participating for the majority of the proceedings. I wish they would participate. I think they would be disturbed, I hope, by what we are hearing. But again, this will move to a public phase, and
right.
no longer will they have a closed proceeding to not participate in.
Right.
They will have to answer for how they conduct themselves publicly.
Right, Representative. How do we navigate the fact that some of your colleagues appear to be involved or implicated in this, like Devin Nunes, and what's his the senator, right? Johnson from Wisconsin. Bill Barr is implicated in this whole scandal. How do we proceed legally with all that?
There are a number of conflicts of interest that we're seeing. The fact that we have to do this investigative phase, reflects that the Attorney General did not conduct, an investigation. The Attorney General is brought up on the call record, and he is the one who the Inspector General and the Acting Director of National Intelligence sent and referred the case to. And, in short order, he washed his hands of it and said, essentially, there's nothing to see here. And, of course, we have this linkage between Devin Nunes, and the White House, and Chairman Nunes, we know from prior acts, in the midnight run that he took, is willing to take information from our investigation over to the White House. So, would not be surprised at all if that is, ongoing.
Yeah. What? One last one.
Work around it, and fortunately, the American people gave us the responsibility of the majority in 2018.
Yep.
Every day, I tell my colleagues, I tell my wife, I tell my friends, imagine where we would be right now if a year ago we had not won the majority.
Exactly. Representative, how much trouble is Rudy Giuliani in, and doesn't he have to pick whether he's the president's attorney or not in terms of being able to testify?
Yeah, as far as we see things, Rudy Giuliani is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is Rudy Giuliani. And any act that he took on behalf of his client, and that lawyers don't act without their client's authorization. So there's no separating the two. And so, I'll leave it to prosecutors to determine his criminal culpability. But as far as our investigation goes, the president may be able to throw a lot of people under the bus, but once you tell individuals that Rudy is your guy and that he's acting as your attorney, you have a sharp, straight line between the two of you, and there's no breaking it. So Rudy did something. Representative
Swalwell, we're out of time. So grateful for your time. So grateful for your work. Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, there he goes.
Yay!
Yay! Stephanie Miller Show.